Commander Dax made his final mistake. Instead of surrendering, he ordered his ships to attack, thinking they could use the Hope as a shield. "Fire on the Earth ships," he shouted. "They won't risk hitting their precious hospital ship." He was wrong. The Hope's hull suddenly began to glow with a soft blue light. What looked like waves of water rippled across its surface, forming shields that no one had known existed. The hospital ship's true defenses activated, turning the peaceful vessel into an impenetrable fortress. "Interesting choice," Admiral Stone said calmly. "Thunder, execute Protocol 0. The battle that followed lasted less than 5 minutes. The first Dominion ship fired at the closest Earth vessel, its energy weapons blazing through space. But the Earth ship simply absorbed the blast in a shield of shifting golden light. Then it fired back. The difference in technology became immediately clear. Where the alien weapons produced simple energy beams, Earth's weapons twisted space itself. On the Hope's bridge, Captain Reed watched with professional interest. He had never actually seen Protocol 0 in action before. As a doctor, he had taken an oath to do no harm. The Earth Defense Fleet had taken an oath to make sure he never had to break that promise. The second Dominion ship tried to move behind the Hope, still thinking the hospital ship would make good cover. Instead, the Hope's new shields redirected the alien ship's engines, pushing it right into the waiting guns of 3 Earth destroyers. The destroyers didn't fire. They simply held the alien ship in place with gravity beams. "You see," Admiral Stone's voice rang out across all channels, "those shields aren't just for defense. The Hope was built to be untouchable, not to protect itself, but to protect its patients." Commander Dax's flagship was the last to fall. It launched everything it had: energy beams, plasma torpedoes, even old-fashioned missiles. The Hope's shields handled the attack like it was dealing with a light rain shower, while Earth ships moved in perfect formation around it. "Shields holding at 99%, reported Lucy from her station on the Hope. "Actually, they're getting stronger. They're learning from the attacks." In the medical bay, the Dominion soldiers who had pretended to be patients watched in shock as their mighty warships were systematically disabled, not destroyed. The Earth fleet was being very careful about that. They were simply taking the alien ships apart, piece by piece, system by system. Dr. Walker allowed herself a small laugh. "We may be healers," she told her former patients, now prisoners, "but we're not stupid. Did you really think we wouldn't have protection?" The Thunder moved into final position above Dax's flagship, its main weapon powered up, not with destructive energy, but with a field that simply shut down every system on the alien vessel. The mighty Dominion warship went dark, floating helpless in space. "This is how Earth fights," Admiral Stone announced to the defeated aliens. "We didn't fire a single shot that would kill. We didn't need to. Our weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. Because in the end, we're all potential patients." The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. 3 Dominion warships floated powerless in space, surrounded by hundreds of Earth vessels. The Hope's shields slowly faded back to invisibility, but everyone knew they were still there, ready to activate again in a heartbeat. Captain Reed sent a private message to Admiral Stone. "Thank you for the demonstration, though I hope we won't need to repeat it." Stone's reply was simple: "As long as they remember this lesson, we won't have to. Nobody attacks our healers. Nobody." In the distance, even more Earth ships were arriving through hyperspace, just to make sure the point was absolutely clear. The massive white hull of the UNHS Hope gleamed against the darkness of space. Red crosses marked its sides, bright enough to be seen from millions of miles away. The hospital ship was Earth's pride, a floating city of mercy among the stars. Captain Thomas Reed stood at the bridge window, watching distant stars drift by. His gray uniform bore the medical star of the United Nations Hospital Fleet, marking him as both a ship's captain and a doctor. 20 years of space medicine had left lines on his face, but his eyes remained sharp and alert. "Captain," called out Lucy, the ship's communications officer, We're picking up a distress signal. Unknown origin, but it's using basic radio waves. Sounds like someone wants to be found. Reed turned from the window. Show me. The main screen lit up with a pattern of signals. The message was simple, a cry for help using the most basic form of space communication. Someone out there was hurt and needed help. Life signs? Reed asked. Confirmed, answered Bill from his science station. Reading about 30 beings. Their vital signs are all over the place. Whatever happened to them, it's bad. Reed nodded slowly. The Hope was built for exactly this kind of mission. With 1,500 beds, 300 medical staff, and the most advanced healing technology Earth had created, they could handle almost any emergency. Plot an intercept course, he ordered, and wake up Dr. Walker. She'll want to prep her teams. The Hope changed direction smoothly, its massive engines pushing the 10-million-ton vessel through space. In the medical bays below, crews began their emergency preparations. They had done this hundreds of times before, but first contact with a new species always added extra tension to their work. Dr. Maria Walker arrived on the bridge just as they got their first visual of the damaged ship. It was roughly cylindrical, its hull marked with what looked like impact damage from asteroids. The vessel was about 1/10 the size of the Hope, probably a merchant or trading ship. Interesting design, Walker said, studying the readings. No signs of weapons. Those hull breaches matched their story about asteroid damage. We're looking at multiple trauma cases, probably some vacuum exposure too. Reed pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, this is the captain. We have a first contact situation with emergency medical needs. Follow first contact protocols, but remember, saving lives comes first. These people asked for our help, and we're going to give it. The Hope's massive docking bay opened like a giant mouth, ready to swallow the smaller vessel. Tractor beams, gentle as a mother's touch, guided the damaged ship inside. Emergency teams in sealed suits stood ready, their hover stretchers floating beside them. When the airlock opened, they got their first look at the aliens. They were humanoid, but with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms each. Many were clearly injured, with visible wounds and burns. Their leader, or at least the one who stepped forward first, had a nasty gash across 2 of his arms. "We thank you," the alien said in broken standard English. They must have picked it up from Earth's public radio broadcasts. "We are traders, hit by rocks in space. Need help." Dr. Walker stepped forward, medical scanner already humming. "You're safe now. We'll take care of everyone. Can you tell me where it hurts the most?" The alien touched his wounded arms. "Here. And others. Worse, inside ship." Teams of doctors and nurses moved forward, each focusing on different patients. The Hope's advanced translation software was already working to improve communication, and the ship's AI was analyzing the aliens' biology to adjust treatment plans. Reed watched from above, making sure everything ran smoothly. This was why he loved his job. The moment when fear turned to relief in a patient's eyes. No matter what species they were, the Hope had never turned away anyone in need, and they weren't about to start now. What no one noticed in all the organized chaos of the emergency response was the way one of the aliens slipped a small device into a wall panel, or how their leader's eyes studied everything with just a bit too much interest. The trap was being set, and the Hope's mercy was about to be tested in ways no one expected. Dr. Walker frowned at her medical scanner. Something wasn't adding up. She had been treating alien injuries for 6 hours now, and a pattern was emerging that made her stomach tight with worry. "Computer," she whispered, making sure none of their guests could hear, "compare these wound patterns to known asteroid impact injuries." The answer came back quickly, inconsistent with asteroid damage. Wound angles suggest self-inflicted injuries. She looked across the medical bay where 30 aliens lay in beds, all apparently resting. Their 4 armed bodies made them look strange against the white hospital sheets. But it wasn't their appearance that bothered her. It was their behavior. In the next bed, an alien with a deep cut suddenly moved his injured arm in a way that should have caused extreme pain. But he didn't flinch. Not even a little. Walker pressed a small button on her coat, sending a silent alert to Security Officer James Cooper. Within minutes, he appeared at her side, pretending to check some medical equipment. "What's wrong?" he asked quietly, adjusting some dials that didn't need adjusting. "These injuries," Walker replied, keeping her voice low. "They're fake, or at least they did them to themselves. Look at the cut patterns. They're too neat, too careful." Cooper nodded slowly, his face not showing any reaction. "That's not all. Ship's AI detected someone trying to access our computer systems. Very clever attempts, but not clever enough." "What are they after?" "Medical data, treatment protocols. They're especially interested in our emergency response procedures." Just then, the ship's AI sent a private message to both their earpieces. "Warning. Unauthorized device detected in wall panel 47B, purpose unknown." Cooper kept his face calm, though his hand tightened on the fake medical scanner he was holding. "How many devices?" 12 so far," the AI replied. "All planted within the first hour of their arrival." Walker looked at her patients again. Now she noticed how their eyes moved when they thought no one was watching. Scanning, measuring, memorizing. These weren't injured traders. They were information gatherers. "Captain Reed needs to know," she whispered. "Already told him," Cooper replied. "He says to keep acting normal. Let them think we haven't noticed." Throughout the day, more small signs appeared. The aliens asked too many specific questions about the ship's capabilities. They seemed especially interested in the Hope's defensive systems, strange concerns for supposed civilian traders. In the ship's mess hall, Bill from the science station noticed how their guests always sat near important computer terminals. The cleaning staff reported seeing aliens walking in restricted areas, claiming they were lost. Captain Reed watched all this from the bridge, putting together the pieces of the puzzle. The Hope had walked into something bigger than a simple rescue mission. But why? What could anyone want with a hospital ship? "Lucy," he called to his communications officer, "send a coded update to Earth Command. Tell them we might have a situation." "Sir," Lucy replied, her face going pale. "I can't. Our main communication array just went dead." Reed's jaw tightened. "Backup systems. Also down. Someone knew exactly where to plant those devices. We're being jammed." The captain stood up slowly, looking at the stars through the bridge window. 20 years of experience told him trouble was coming, but he had one card left to play. Something these aliens couldn't know about. "Activate the quantum beacon," he ordered quietly, "but make it look like a regular distress signal." As the beacon powered up, hidden deep within the Hope's systems, the aliens continued their act in the medical bay. They thought they had fooled everyone with their injured trader story. They thought the hospital ship was helpless. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The first sign of trouble came as a shimmer in space. One moment there was nothing around the Hope except stars. The next moment, 3 massive warships appeared, their stealth fields melting away like ice in sunlight. They were ugly things, built for war rather than healing. Their black hulls bristled with weapons, all pointed at the hospital ship. Each one was twice the size of the Hope, their shapes like giant metal arrows ready to strike. On the bridge, Captain Reed stood calmly. He had expected something like this, but the reality was still shocking. "Battle stations," he ordered quietly. "But keep our weapons hidden. Let's see what they want first." The main screen lit up with an alien face, the same species as their injured patients, but this one wore what was clearly a military uniform. His blue skin seemed darker, and all 4 of his arms carried different rank markings. "Hospital Ship Hope," the alien commander said in perfect English, dropping all pretense of broken language. "I am Supreme Commander Dax of the Stellar Dominion. You will surrender your vessel immediately." Reed's face showed no fear. "This is a medical ship on a peaceful mission. We don't surrender to anyone, because we're not a military target." The alien commander laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. "Your ship holds the most advanced medical technology in known space. Did you think we wouldn't notice? Did you think we wouldn't want it?" In the medical bay below, the injured aliens were already moving. They pulled hidden weapons from their beds, surrounding the medical staff. Dr. Walker kept her hands raised, but her eyes were fierce. "We helped you," she said. "We treated your fake injuries. And we thank you for the demonstration of your abilities." One of the aliens replied with a cruel smile. "The Dominion will make good use of your technology." Back on the bridge, Commander Dax was still talking. "Your hospital ship will make an excellent addition to our fleet. Think of how many Dominion soldiers we can save with your medical bays. All you have to do is surrender, and we'll let your crew live as our guests." Reed's hand moved slowly to a hidden panel on his chair. Inside was a small red button. "The quantum beacon's emergency boost. Before you do anything stupid," he said calmly, "you should know I've already called for help." The alien commander laughed again. "Oh yes, we saw your little distress signal. How cute. Did you think your handful of Earth defense ships could match 3 Dominion warships? Even if they were nearby, which they're not, they would be no match for us." Reed pressed the red button. "That wasn't a distress signal," he said quietly. "That was a warning." "A warning?" Dax looked amused. "Warning of what?" "That you have exactly 1 minute to power down your weapons and withdraw," Reed replied. "Or you'll learn why nobody attacks Earth's hospital ships." The alien commander's face turned darker blue with anger. "You dare threaten me? You have no weapons, no defenses. Your ship is built for healing, not war." "Correct," Reed said with a small smile. "We're healers, and Earth protects its healers very, very well." Suddenly, space itself seemed to tear open around them. Massive holes appeared in the darkness, glowing with blue fire. The alien commander's face changed from anger to shock as he saw what was coming through those holes. "Impossible," he whispered. The holes in space grew larger, and through them came humanity's answer to anyone who threatened their hospital ships. The Earth Defense Fleet had arrived. And they hadn't sent a handful of ships. They had sent hundreds. The Earth Defense Fleet emerged from the hyperspace windows like a tidal wave of metal and light. First came the smaller ships, hundreds of destroyers and cruisers, their hulls gleaming with the blue fire of hyperspace travel. Then came the bigger vessels, massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the Dominion warships. At the front of this armada flew the Thunder, humanity's most powerful warship. Its hull was midnight black with silver streaks, like a storm cloud ready to unleash lightning. The ship was 5 times larger than the Hope, and its weapons were already powering up. On the Thunder's bridge stood Admiral Elizabeth Stone, her white uniform crisp and perfect. Her gray hair was cut short, and her eyes held the cold fury of someone who had caught a bully attacking the innocent. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of command. "And make sure our friends in the Dominion can hear every word." The communications officer nodded, and Stone began to speak. "This is Admiral Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are currently threatening a clearly marked hospital ship, which is a violation of both Earth law and galactic peace treaties. Power down your weapons. Now." On the Hope's bridge, Captain Reed watched as the Dominion commander's face turned from blue to almost white with shock. The alien's 4 arms were trembling slightly. This is impossible," Commander Dax stuttered. "Earth has no war fleet. You are peaceful explorers and healers. Our intelligence reports." "We're wrong," Stone cut him off. "Earth doesn't show off its military power. We don't need to. But make no mistake, we protect our own, especially our healers." Around the Hope, Earth's ships took up battle positions. Each Dominion warship now faced dozens of Earth vessels, their weapons locked on target. The Thunder moved to hover directly above the Hope, its massive bulk casting a shadow over the hospital ship. In the Hope's medical bay, the armed aliens were starting to look nervous. Through the windows, they could see Earth ships everywhere. Their weapons suddenly felt very small. "We have targeting locks on every Dominion soldier inside the Hope," Stone continued, her voice growing colder. "Our ships can beam you out into space or into our brigs with one button press. Your choice." The aliens in the medical bay looked at each other. Slowly, very slowly, they began putting down their weapons. Dr. Walker allowed herself a small smile as she watched their confidence crumble. On his ship, Commander Dax was trying to regain control of the situation. You can't just appear with a war fleet this size. Where have you been hiding these ships? How did you build them without anyone knowing?" Admiral Stone's laugh was short and sharp. "Commander, did you really think Earth became a peaceful species by accident? We chose to focus on healing and exploration because we were strong enough to make that choice, but we never forgot how to fight." She leaned forward in her command chair. "Earth has defense fleets stationed throughout our territory. Hidden, waiting, ready. The quantum beacon on that hospital ship didn't just call the nearest fleet. It called all of them. The displays showed even more ships arriving, pouring out of hyperspace like rain. Earth vessels of all sizes filled the view screens, their weapons gleaming in the starlight." "Now," Stone said quietly, "I'm going to explain something very important about humanity. We believe that those who save lives are sacred. Every hospital ship, every medical station, every single healer is protected by the full might of Earth's military. You didn't just attack a hospital ship today, Commander. You attacked a fundamental human value." She stood up from her chair, her white uniform almost glowing in the bridge lights. "The only question now is, how would you like to surrender?" Commander Dax made his final mistake. Instead of surrendering, he ordered his ships to attack, thinking they could use the Hope as a shield. "Fire on the Earth ships," he shouted. "They won't risk hitting their precious hospital ship." He was wrong. The Hope's hull suddenly began to glow with a soft blue light. What looked like waves of water rippled across its surface, forming shields that no one had known existed. The hospital ship's true defenses activated, turning the peaceful vessel into an impenetrable fortress. "Interesting choice," Admiral Stone said calmly. "Thunder, execute Protocol 0. The battle that followed lasted less than 5 minutes. The first Dominion ship fired at the closest Earth vessel, its energy weapons blazing through space. But the Earth ship simply absorbed the blast in a shield of shifting golden light. Then it fired back. The difference in technology became immediately clear. Where the alien weapons produced simple energy beams, Earth's weapons twisted space itself. On the Hope's bridge, Captain Reed watched with professional interest. He had never actually seen Protocol 0 in action before. As a doctor, he had taken an oath to do no harm. The Earth Defense Fleet had taken an oath to make sure he never had to break that promise. The second Dominion ship tried to move behind the Hope, still thinking the hospital ship would make good cover. Instead, the Hope's new shields redirected the alien ship's engines, pushing it right into the waiting guns of 3 Earth destroyers. The destroyers didn't fire. They simply held the alien ship in place with gravity beams. "You see," Admiral Stone's voice rang out across all channels, "those shields aren't just for defense. The Hope was built to be untouchable, not to protect itself, but to protect its patients." Commander Dax's flagship was the last to fall. It launched everything it had: energy beams, plasma torpedoes, even old-fashioned missiles. The Hope's shields handled the attack like it was dealing with a light rain shower, while Earth ships moved in perfect formation around it. "Shields holding at 99%, reported Lucy from her station on the Hope. "Actually, they're getting stronger. They're learning from the attacks." In the medical bay, the Dominion soldiers who had pretended to be patients watched in shock as their mighty warships were systematically disabled, not destroyed. The Earth fleet was being very careful about that. They were simply taking the alien ships apart, piece by piece, system by system. Dr. Walker allowed herself a small laugh. "We may be healers," She told her former patients, now prisoners, "But we're not stupid. Did you really think we wouldn't have protection?" The Thunder moved into final position above Dax's flagship, its main weapon powered up, not with destructive energy, but with a field that simply shut down every system on the alien vessel. The mighty Dominion warship went dark, floating helpless in space. "This is how Earth fights," Admiral Stone announced to the defeated aliens. "We didn't fire a single shot that would kill. We didn't need to. Our weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. Because in the end, we're all potential patients." The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. 3 Dominion warships floated powerless in space, surrounded by hundreds of Earth vessels. The Hope's shields slowly faded back to invisibility, but everyone knew they were still there, ready to activate again in a heartbeat. Captain Reed sent a private message to Admiral Stone. "Thank you for the demonstration, though I hope we won't need to repeat it." Stone's reply was simple. "As long as they remember this lesson, we won't have to. Nobody attacks our healers. Nobody." In the distance, even more Earth ships were arriving through hyperspace, just to make sure the point was absolutely clear. 1 month after the battle, the UNHS Hope floated near a small trading station at the edge of known space. Its white hull gleamed as always, the red crosses bright against the starfield. But now everyone who saw it knew what those symbols truly meant. Not just healing, but protection. Captain Reed stood at his usual spot on the bridge, watching a group of alien ships approach. These weren't warships or trapped vessels, but genuine traders with real engine problems. They came without fear or hidden plans, knowing that Earth's hospital ships now meant both safety and security. "They're requesting medical assistance," Lucy reported from her station. "Engine radiation leak. 3 injured crew members." Reed nodded. "Just like the old days. Let them dock." But things weren't exactly like the old days. Now when alien ships docked with the Hope, they could see the shimmer of its powerful shields. Sometimes they caught glimpses of Earth warships moving through the darkness nearby, watching and protecting. In her office on Earth, Admiral Stone read reports from across the galaxy. The Stellar Dominion had fallen into political chaos after their failed attack. Their leaders couldn't explain how they had missed Earth's massive military presence, or why they had risked attacking such a well-protected target. "The Dominion's Council wants to sign a new peace treaty," her aide reported. "They're especially interested in our medical technology, legally this time." Stone smiled. "Send them the standard terms, including the part about joining the Hospital Ship Protection Act." The act had become the galaxy's newest and most important law. Any race that signed it gained access to Earth's medical knowledge, but they also had to pledge to protect all medical vessels, not just their own. 20 alien species had already signed. In the Hope's medical bay, Dr. Walker treated patients from a dozen different worlds. The news of Earth's hidden fleet had changed how aliens saw humans. They weren't just clever healers anymore. They were respected as a species that had mastered both peace and power. "Your people are very strange," said one of her alien patients, a traitor with radiation burns. "You hide your strongest chips but show your healing ships. Most races do the opposite." Walker smiled as she ran a healing device over his wounds. "We believe the strongest ships are the ones that help others. Everything else is just backup." The Hope's story had spread far across space. Other races began copying Earth's example, putting their best defenses on medical ships and hospital stations. The galaxy was changing, becoming a place where healers were the most protected citizens of any species. Bill at the science station had started keeping track of the changes. "Another race just announced they're converting warships into hospital ships," he reported. "That's the 5th one this month." In the ship's mess hall, the crew celebrated these small victories. They had always known their mission was important, but now the whole galaxy understood why. Captain Reed kept a small reminder of the incident in his office, a piece of metal from one of the Dominion ships. Not as a war trophy, but as a lesson. On his desk, he also kept a new message that was being added to all hospital ship badges. "We come to heal. We are protected. We will not be stopped." The Hope continued its endless mission through space, answering calls for help from any world that needed it. But now when the massive white ship appeared above a planet or near a space station, everyone understood what it represented. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in hiding its power, but in choosing how to use it. As Reed watched the stars pass by his bridge window, he thought about how one simple truth had changed the galaxy. Sometimes the strongest warriors aren't the ones who fight. They're the ones who protect those who heal. The hospital ship incident became more than just a battle. It became the day the galaxy learned that true power isn't about having the biggest guns or the strongest shields. It's about knowing when to use them to protect something more important.